Mr. President, I rise today to speak about the bill that is long past due, and one that in part honors our dear colleague and my dear friend, Frank Lautenberg. And anybody that served with Frank knew that he served with compassion. And he had a passion with that compassion that was unbeatable. This is one of those that he had this compassion for and the passion to get it done. I think we can all agree that the current Toxic Substance Control Act, which we know as TSCA, is inadequate and is long past due to reform the law. The Toxic Substance Control Act has not been improved in more than 30 years. I couldn't believe that when Frank explained to me the history of this piece of legislation. How this all came about and how I became involved. In 2013, I started talking to Senator Vitter, and he was working it diligently. And he told me that Frank had always been on the front and championed this thing. So I'd gone to Frank to get his input. And he said, Joe, it's time has come. We've got to do something. We've got to move the ball forward. It's not going to be a perfect bill. I understand that. And I got to be honest, I've never seen a perfect bill. So we've worked on it. But Frank was willing to move it forward. Because here's the facts. In the 30 years that we've been talking about doing nothing but talking about it, 80,000 chemicals have been registered in the United States. 80,000 new chemicals have been registered, which many of us use every day. We use these unknowingly. Only 200 have undergone EPA testing. Only 200 out of 80,000. So Frank thought very pragmatic, if you can just move the ball, can we do 20 or 30 or 40 or 50,000 of them? You know, and that's all we were trying to do, and he knew this. There's not one person here who can question Senator Lautenberg's dedication to not only reforming the law, but also to protecting the environment and health and safety in every American. This thing got a little bit nasty, if you will, and it's to the point, was Frank really sincere about moving this forward, knowing he had to take some steps. After 30 years, I can tell you, Frank Lautenberg knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly that he had to make some adjustments to move the ball. That's what we're here for. Frank wanted to do that, and so we had a long talk about that, and he said, Joe, try to move it if you can. So we all got together, our staffs got together, things started to happen. And then Senator Udall became very much involved, and I appreciate it. He was on the committee and took it as a champion from there, and him and Senator Vidar sitting on that committee really made some things happen. Reforming TSCA would establish much-needed regulatory certainty for the chemical industry, which directly and indirectly employs about 40,000 West Virginians and over 800,000 people nationwide. When Senator Lautenberg met with Senator Vitter, he toughened many of the most important provisions in the law. And Senator Udall has taken up that effort, further strengthening the bill. The bill that we have before us includes increased states' rights under preemption. That was our hang-up for a long time. They worked through this, and I commend both of them to working through the preemption, to making sure that the states that basically have been out front and doing things are not going to be harmed by this. That was never the intention. It ensures that doctors, first responders, and government health and environmental officials would have greater access to confidential business information to guarantee that those potentially exposed to harmful chemicals could receive the best possible treatment. Most importantly, it contains a safety standard that, unlike current law, is based solely on human health and the environment and includes no cost-benefit analysis. Now, let me explain a personal. Freedom Industry. We had a leak of MCHM, a chemical used in a coal cleaning process in West Virginia. We had no idea what effect this chemical had on humans. Now, if you take, we have one plant, one intake on the Elk River that supplied about 300,000 homes with water. The whole valley was affected. Everybody. Don't drink it. Don't bathe in it. Don't wash. We didn't know what effect it would have. So all precautions were taken. It shut down a whole industry. It shut down a whole community. It shut down the whole city, if you will. In July of last year, I pushed the NIH and CDC to conduct further studies into the potential health impacts of crude MCHM. We just didn't know. And we had to push them, and we had to get everybody on board to tell us as quickly as they could what effect it has on our humans, to our children. Does it have any long-lasting effects? The NIH's National Toxicology Program concluded their study into crude MCHM and indicated that no long-term health effects should be expected for residents who were impacted. That was great news. But it came long after a lot of harm was done. While I'm thrilled with the findings, we shouldn't have to wait more than a year, 1 year, to get safety information on the chemicals in question. This bill that we're working on right now would require the EPA to systematically review all chemicals in commerce for the first time ever. While this will be a long process, it is far superior to the current system that allows the chemicals we use every day to go untested for health impacts on all of us. Some of my colleagues have argued the bill would be better, that this bill could be better. I assure you it could be better. Every bill we've ever passed here could have been better. But you've got to start somewhere. Frank Lautenberg knew that. After 30 years, he said, listen, enough's enough. If Frank Lautenberg would have been able, and we could have got this done 2 or 3 years later, my community, my state, 300,000 residents out of 1.8 million, wouldn't have been affected for 1 year. 1 year with the uncertainty of what effect it's going to have on them. I do know that before I decide to vote for a bill, I ask myself 3 things. Will this improve the quality of life of my constituents? Is it better than the status quo? And have we worked as hard as we can to preserve our core beliefs? For me, the Frank Lautenberg Chemical Safety Bill for the 21st Century Act is a yes on all 3. It's a win, win, win for all of us. Senator Lautenberg was an extremely smart legislator who knew it was time to move past partisan politics and craft a bill that would finally protect all Americans. This bill does that, and it does it in grand fashion. Let me just say that I think Senator Vitter summed it up. We have a little bit of a jousting going on, if you will, of where, and I understand, I sympathize with Senator Burr, Senator Ayotte, wanting to put a piece of legislation, which most of us, I think all of us support. It just maybe not the right fit for it right now, and this bill should go as clean. As much work and much time has elapsed, this bill should go clean. I truly believe that. We are committed in our energy bill coming out that we're with the LWC, the Land Water Grant. We're going to be there. We're going to fight for that. But it should be done in a different format than what this piece of legislation is being done, and how important this piece of legislation, the Frank Lautenberg legislation, he worked so hard and dedicated his life to. I want to make sure that we support this in the fashion it should be, and it is bipartisan. There's not too many things here are bipartisan, so this is one moment that we should seize and move forward for all of our constituents. And with that, Senator, I commend you for the job you've done and the work you've put into this, and I know that Frank would be proud of you.
Yeah, well, Senator Manchin, I want to thank you too, because I know you've labored hard on this, and you helped the original co-sponsors get together and talk with each other and help them find common ground. And I know we both, with Senator Vitter here, we both believe we're going to have a couple of meetings now to try to move forward, as you've talked out with the bill, meet with leadership, iron out the differences, but this thing's ready to go.
Well, the bill, if I may, Senator, you all worked, the preemption was the last thing hanging, right?
Yes.
That was the hardest. You've worked through that. And all of our states that had concerns about that know that they will not be usurped by preemption, that we're going to come in and say, okay, you have to reduce your standards.
And the key here is that states are going to be able to participate much more. When we started with the original bill, we've worked towards more of having states participate. So I know that Senator Daines has been very generous to us and shown us great courtesies, and we've run over our time. So I'm going to yield the floor, Senator Manchin, unless you have anything else.
I'd just like to recognize Mrs. Lautenberg here to observe this historic moment, and we're so happy to have you here, Bonnie. And I know Frank would be proud of all of us trying to fight the good fight that he fought forever. And there's our good friend right there.
And Joe, earlier,
he's a champion.
Before you got here, this was the what I showed everybody, which is Frank and his grandchildren. And you know well how he always talked about his grandchildren and how
God bless.
We were supposed to legislate with grandchildren in mind. Thank you very much, Senator Daines, for your courtesies, and both you can count on me and Senator Manchin to work with you on the Land and Water Conservation Fund. You know, he's from West Virginia, but I'm from the West like you are, and I think we all believe that should move forward.